Murray. Gareth said that documents such as the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the Declaration of Independence indicate a universal morality. But as countries, including the USA, impose certain aspects of the Declaration of Human Rights, can there really be a universal morality? Doesn't contrast within cultures prove that morality is a social construction and differs both within and outside any given culture?
Okay, I think there can be, I think legitimately, whilst recognising universal human rights, I think people can legitimately agree that the way they apply in various circumstances can vary to some extent, only to some extent. For example, if you have a very poor country that's only developing and people have a right to food, well, you mightn't expect that country at the present state of its development to be able to provide the same kind of services that a developed country would. But the principle still remains the same. So it was a fantastic achievement of the human race to be able to write that Universal Declaration in 1948. And it was a sign that even though there is a certain amount of diversity, there are a number of things that human beings have been able to agree on. But again, the motion isn't that we agree on morality. The motion is that if we are to have true morality, there must be a God. So again, I bring the question back. Supposing there is no God, it brings us no closer whatsoever to having any true morality. It only makes things worse. Okay? So if there is a God, there's a possibility that human beings might be able to live truly and work out what true morality is. It doesn't mean that we're necessarily going to have all of the answers right now. Perhaps some things we have to work on and develop our thinking on. Some things I think we can be very definite about. I would make one point about a point that Michael made there. The idea that morality is maximising human happiness or minimising human suffering. And Michael takes the view that that's a very commonly accepted view, especially in the Western world. That view is called utilitarianism or consequentialism or proportionalism. There's different names given to it. And it is very seriously debated in moral philosophy. And it has huge problems with it. It sounds rather intuitively grand when you hear it first. Sure, of course, who couldn't be in favour of minimising suffering and maximising happiness? But there's huge difficulties when you try to start applying it, because you have all sorts of issues as to whether certain people can be sacrificed for the greater happiness of the majority and so on, and various issues like that. So again, taking God out of the equation doesn't make it any easier for anybody to have true morality. But if there is a God who has created us and made a rational and intelligible world and given us consciences and so on, the possibility of us having a true morality is increased.
Will I go to your answer?
Yeah.
Okay, you go.
I think there is something in that. I think that there's a prejudice in how the motion is actually framed. And I think there's a prejudice in what's described. And the prejudice is the word truly. Like, everybody agreed that atheists can be moral. It's great to know I can be moral. And in the moral part of it, we all get along. We all do negotiate. We all do. And the legal side of that is rights. There's the legal element that we apply, that we as collective go together and we negotiate. That's the good part of morality. The bad part of morality is the religious part, to my mind. And what John wants to do, he wants to apply a value to it. And that value is a bunch of cells has a certain equivalency to humans. It's to say there is a true. You want to apply. It's not what I do wrong. It's not about you considering what you do wrong. It's about telling other people what they do wrong. And that's the nasty element of morality. And I think that's where the element comes down when we're talking about true morality. The real element of where Christianity, or not Christianity, religion wants to do, it wants to take control. It wants to apply power.
But I'd like to invite you to reflect on what you've just done. You've done exactly what you say shouldn't be done. You have told me what was right and what was wrong, what I should and shouldn't do. You have said that religion is nasty, and that what I've been saying and suggesting is nasty and wrong. And yet at the same time, you're criticising religion for telling others what's right and what's wrong. So I think if you did a bit of self-reflection on this, you'd come to a realisation that there's nothing inherently wrong with any of us telling someone else what to do. It could be inappropriate, it could be ineffective, it could be a waste of time. It could be something which is offensive perhaps, or distracting or useless. But there's nothing wrong with telling people what's right and what's wrong. We do that. That's part of human beings, it's part of what we are. And religious people do that, and non-religious people, atheists like yourself, do that. You've just done it right now to me, here. So don't go telling me not to tell people what's right and what's wrong, as if I have to follow that rule and you're allowed to break it. Sorry, same rules apply. Both of us can tell people what's right and what's wrong. As long as we're honest, as long as we back it up, as long as we argue our point. And if that's the case, then fine. Nothing nasty about that whatsoever. And control is exercised by many different elements of society, not just religious elements. So come on, be honest about this. There can be abuses of control by many different elements in society, including religious elements, but you certainly aren't going to argue, I think, that an atheistic government or system of government doesn't want to exercise control, can't abuse control. Have you forgotten the 20th century, perhaps?
And respond.
Very quickly, please.
One, there's an element there of speaking truth to power. All right? For me, telling you you're wrong, I'm not telling you you're going to burn for entire damnation in hell and horrible suffering. And that is the element to it. If somebody is a believer and you're telling them they're wrong, for the hard cases, not for the easy cases, for hard cases you tell, where I think anybody can speak truth to power, and it is about that power. Now, the reverse relationship is not the same. So when I'm telling you you're wrong, I'm having it in, as a society in the argument, I think religion is wrong for what it imposes on people in their lives, whether that's a burqa or because whatever they do in their bedroom at night is going to, affect their afterlife or whatever. There's real elements of difference within that.